Okay, so here we are in Act 5, the final act of the play, and this is set in Mantua where Romeo has been banished. Now, right from the beginning of the scene, we got Romeo by himself, and he says that he's had a dream. He says that if I may trust my flattering truth of sleep, my dreams presage some joyful news at hand. I dreamt my lady came and found me dead and breathed such life with kisses in my lips that I revived and was an emperor. Now, Romeo has multiple dreams throughout the play, and his dreams serve as like premonitions of what's about to happen. And we do know that by the end of the play, his dream does come true. He is actually found dead and Juliet kisses him, but perhaps they are revived into the afterlife where he finds himself an emperor. But at that point, Balthazar comes into the scene. Balthazar is his friend, and he's not obviously aware of the plans and the agenda of Friar Lawrence. So Romeo is really quick to question Balthazar. We can see his rapid fire of questioning here. How is now Balthazar? Dost not thou not bring me letters from the friar? How doth my lady? Is my father well? How doth my lady Juliet? That I ask again, for nothing can be ill if she be well. And we just see that impulsiveness and rapidness of Romeo's character come into play right from the beginning of Act 5, Scene 1. And Balthazar breaks the news and tells him that Juliet is in the Capulet tomb. And Romeo then goes, then I deny you stars. He won't accept it. And get me ink and paper. I will hence tonight. So, Balthazar at this point is like, I do beseech you, sir, have patience. Your looks are pale and wild and do import some misadventure. He realizes that, Romeo's not in a good headspace right now and he could act out of his emotion. And we know that this is the hubris of Romeo's character, is that he is just so quick and impulsive to act upon his emotion. So, but Romeo is taken with emotion in this moment. And we see when Balthazar leaves, he says that we see a little dramatic monologue from him. He says, well, Juliet, I will lie with thee tonight. Let me see for means, O mischief, thou art swift to enter the thoughts of desperate men. And so here Romeo, calls O mischief, like the evil thoughts take over desperate men, which he's talking in the third person because he is that desperate man. And he says that he does remember an apothecary, which is like a pharmacist or someone who deals drugs, and whereabouts it dwells, which late I noted in tattered weeds with overwhelming brows. And then here he's describing what the apothecary looked like, that he was wearing ragged clothes, but he uses this imagery of tattered weeds and overwhelming brows. And you can see there in the translation that just means uncared for eyebrows, but sharp misery had worn him to the bones. And so we can see that this man was malnourished. He's quite skinny by the imagery that Shakespeare is using in this part. Noting his penury, to myself I said, and if a man did need a poison now, here lives a caitiff wench who would sell it him. So, and then he then calls out to the apothecary. And we know that Romeo in this scene manipulates the apothecary in this moment to sell him the drugs because he is a man in poverty. He asks for him for the drugs. The apothecary says that he has them, but Mantua's law is death to any that utters them. Romeo pursues that and he says, art thou so bare and full of wretchedness and fearest to die? Famine is in thy cheeks. The world is not thy friend, nor the world's law. The world affords no law to make thee rich, but be not poor, but break it and take this. And he offers the apothecary some money. And then the apothecary replies that it's my poverty, but not my will consents. And he says, I pay thy poverty and not thy will. the apothecary warns him and says, put this in any liquid thing and you will, and drink it off, and you, if you had the strength of 20 men, it would dispatch you straight. So he is clearly outlining that this is no drug to play around with. This will put you to death. But he, obviously in this moment, Romeo's intentions is to die, and so he does so. So if you're going to use Romeo to as his own responsibility for his own death, then you might find some quotes here that may support your argument. All right, we're going to move on to Act 5, Scene 2. And this scene takes place in the friar's cell. And Friar John and Friar Lawrence are by different doors, according to the stage directions right at the top of that scene. And basically, the Friar John explains that there wasn't any way he could get to Mantua because an infectious pestilence broke out, and they sealed the doors and prevented anyone from leaving Verona. And so he couldn't go to Mantua to deliver the letter that the friar had given him to pass on to Romeo. Obviously, the friar is devastated by this. He says, unhappy fortune, by my brotherhood, the letter was not nice, but full of charge, of dear import, and neglecting it may do much danger. And so he understands that if Romeo doesn't get this note and he finds out that Juliet is dead, he knows how badly that's going to end for him. And so the friar, he wants to quickly get to Mantua. He says at the end of that scene, and to keep her, you're talking about Juliet, because Romeo and the friar were supposed to be by her side when she was to wake up. But that time is now time is of the essence. Again, this whole, speed and race and hastiness is permeating through these scenes again. And he says to her, poor living corpse, closed in a dead man's tomb. So, poor Juliet, she's living but dead, and she's already in a dead man's tomb. And again, there's this whole notion of foreshadowing that she's living but she's dead, and she will die in the end because she's already in the grave. And now we're going to move on to Act 5, Scene 3, which is the final scene of the entire play.